Hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here in this special venue. This is my first time on the street. It feels interesting. Sorry that Well, again, thank you very much for the invitation. It has been amazing these last 2 days here, and the next 2 days that we're going to spend here in the desert. For me, this is the first time in Tucson, but not the first time in this environment. It feels like very, very familiar. It looks and it feels like Mexico, the north part of Mexico. So. I'm like very excited to see the way some colleagues and the community of Tucson has been dealing with the landscape and the city. And in a way, I'm here to learn how to be sensitive to the environment, sensitive to the landscape, and gentle with the way that we treat our places in Mexico. First, I want to introduce a little bit of the work of my studio. In a way, I will show a quick slides on let's say, the generality of our work, and then I will talk about the specifics on some projects. I believe that the way we try to blend in, to integrate ourselves into the landscape, it's one of the most important parts of our process. The way we treat places with a lot of respect, the way we try to mimetize the architecture into the site, into the landscape. We also believe that the way that we design or imagine the structures of our projects, it's the final result of the atmosphere of the projects. We just heard some words about the way we let's say, discuss architecture and the way we imagine architecture. And in a way, by drawing things, I believe that it's important to imagine not the whole architecture, but also the details, the way, the expression of architecture. And Oscar invited us to talk about haptics and stereotomic architecture, joinery and stuff like that. So I'm going to focus this night to understand projects that are related to site, but also related to the way we build things. So again, these pictures are different projects in very different regions of the country. As you probably know, Mexico has very, very different landscapes, different weathers, climates, and regions. So we have been dealing in a positive way with all these different situations. Also the urban life of one of the biggest cities in the world, and we love to change scale and typology, because by doing that, I think that we'll learn a lot. We have been dealing or working with housing projects, transportation hubs, private residences, again, in different latitudes, different scales, different budgets, and that gave us the opportunity to be creative in very different ways. So, again, this picture shows the diversity on typologies, budgets, and ideas, but always trying to give the same philosophy on how we imagine and build things. I think that one of the purposes of architecture is to be, let's say, flexible in time, in budget, in space. So when Oscar invited us, he asked me to have an abstract of a text to understand what's architecture for us, and this is, let's say, the idea of how do we imagine architecture. And this came from like a very strong idea in Mexico. Octavio Paz once wrote something that it was not necessarily like a single idea. On one of his books, he explored the idea of being a Mexican and the idea of being a person that lives, let's say, between these huge worlds, the worlds from the ground and from the above, the Spanish era and the goddess from the pre-Hispanic cultures, and how the Mexicans are always in this huge clash between forces, worlds, and places. And in a way, I believe that's like a nice way of understanding how we see architecture, because I think that we live in this cortex between what's happening above us and what's happening underground. And in a way, those forces, those worlds are creating the way that we live and the way we try to shape things. So let's say that by understanding that idea, I want to explore some of the projects that we have been working on in the last months or years. And I want to show you very different sites. This first one is a project, a master plan with a country clubhouse in a place called Valle de Bravo that is 2 hours from Mexico City. It's a place in the forest with a lot of water, a lot of rain, humidity, and with this beautiful landscape. Let's say, this forest in the mountains. That in a way, it's a great escape for the Mexico City people. It's let's say the weekend place for the people in the city. And this project is about let's say different elements. The first one, let's say that is when we discovered this place, it was a beautiful forest surrounded by these trees that you already see. And in a way, we decided not to create a building, but instead of that, create several buildings, these pavilions that in a way allows the people to really, really understand the site, the weather. I learned from the experience in Marfa this idea of Donald Judd on how, these pavilions on his houses were intended to be spread out and take you out and experience the site. So we decided to create these skeletons, these pavilions made of wood structures that were placed around this beautiful mountain hill, but also never touching the trees. So it's an erratic position of pavilions that are placed not to disturb the landscape in a way. So again, with the main idea of going around and discover the place and experience the weather. One is dedicated for a wellness area, another one for a gym, another one for a restaurant, and the last one I think it's called a ludoteca, like a playground for children. So that project, it's let's say imagined of several pavilion several moments. And another important thing when we visit a place, it's also the materiality, the essence of the site. In this case, the trees, the soil, the colors of these elements. And so the first pavilion is the gym, and it's sorry that I don't see too much. This first pavilion again was, let's say, placed in this beautiful gentle slope with these very, very high and beautiful pine trees that again were there, like showing us how to create an expression. I think that when you are in a place, it's not only about what you see, but it's also about what you feel, what you hear, what you smell. All these phenomenological idea that our friend Johanny Palasma is writing about all the time. But for me, again, is about how our projects, our structures, our buildings are like always create an abstract expression of the site. And I love to imagine that buildings or first ideas on a building is how you interact with the site. So in this case, this is a building that has like half of the program semi-sunken to let's say have the stereotomic and solid part of the building that is the restrooms, and a more extrovertive structure that is, let's say, the gym per se. Also, again, sometimes I think that just the action of how we extract or interact with the topography can create very interesting moments. So again, this pavilion, it tries to be part of these lines and the repetition of the trees. And in a way, it's a very simple structure that expresses the essence of joinery, etc. Elements that we will learn from other cultures, obviously the Japanese one, but also the North American. And in a way, we try to explore how the simple idea of a structure inside this forest can be the final expression. Again, how these materials express but smell and looks, for us it's like very relevant. In a way, I think that by doing these kind of actions, we end up, let's say, creating opportunities to create memories. I think that everyone has memories coming from those kind of elements. Today we were visiting a house, and Oscar was saying that the smell of the kitchen reminds me of my grandmother back in Mexico. And in a way, I think that the smell of the wood, the texture of the concrete will create a very nice memories for the users of this place. So these are the pictures showing what I was expressing on this sketch, this idea on how to create tension between site and architecture, and tension between the elements outside and on the interior, creating that cortex. The next pavilion inside this project, it's dedicated for the wellness, and again, this is a very simple idea on how to create, let's say, a nice environment for a spa, in a structure that is like half integrated with the topography, and how we reduce the scale by doing that, and how, again, by extracting a little bit of the site and the topography, we create a nice expression. Today we were visiting very beautiful Rick Joyce houses in the desert, and I was telling Oscar that it was amazing how the most powerful part of the project is just the sensitivity of interacting with the land. So again, the idea of creating this space made of a concrete colored structure that interacts. Oh, sorry. Wow. Sorry. Oh my God, we were here. Sorry about that. So what I was saying is that we created this space made of concrete. I'll try not to do that again. To imagine again the cortex, that space for the human activity, this, let's say, cozy, more personal space that will be. Sorry, I never do this in lectures, so it's kind of my first time doing this. So, well, again, this space for the human scale that is under and surrounded by this bigger structure made of wood, that in a way it's for another scale. It's for the scale of the vegetation that we want to introduce into the interior of this place. I was always imagining that a spa in the forest, it was like to be inside a greenhouse, a nursery. That in my head it's like a perfect place to be. And normally on greenhouses we just walk around or visit. So for me this was the idea of creating the opportunity of being inside this beautiful nursery, but on different temperature waters and programs. So again, these sections, simple sections that interact with topography and a structure in a repetition system can create beautiful spaces. Again, the tectonic idea of the structures, the way we create these simple but beautiful joints, trying to avoid metal when it's possible, and to imagine, again, that the simple gesture of a structure creating a beautiful atmosphere. And also, well, this is a project under construction. So these pictures are intended to see, let's say, the honesty and the pragmatism that we put on the designs, on the projects. And these are the renderings that we hope to let's say, get at the end of the construction. But I think that these, in a way, express the ideas that I was drawing in the sketches. One of the other buildings, that it's not a building, it's an agora. With a client, we decided to imagine that part of the clubhouse, it was like an open space in order to create like moments like this one, gathering moments for kids and families. but in an open space. So we decide to imagine again in that like beautiful, gentle slope, the idea from the Greek ancient agoras, and also this beautiful idea that the Peruvian culture, the Incas, has in this place called Moray, that I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's like very beautiful. In Moray, the intention of these terraces was about cultivation systems, but in this case, the idea was to gather people, but just creating an interaction in a negative way on the topography. Not a negative way, but a negative. I don't know how to say it, but a negative extraction of the land. So in a way, the public program of this place, that it's intended to have family gathering moments. It's an exercise on only extracting and creating architecture with this topography interaction. So the agora, like I was saying, is this beautiful influenced space from the Peruvian Moray cultivation areas, and there's like another also beautiful, let's say, influence from Robert Smithson. Probably you're completely familiar with his work, but I like to enjoy all the influence from these systems that engineers and in this case these artists use to interact with sight. And again, bringing all the materiality and expression of the site to create something that is completely immersed. This is another project, completely different program. It's 4 houses in San Pancho, Nayarit, Mexico. This is a place near to Puerto Vallarta. It's a very tropical, beautiful coastline. And again, trying to imagine structures that are completely immersed in the landscape, in the site, in the region, in the culture, in the budget. We started understanding this situation of a very beautiful cliff, let's say, that is right in front of the ocean. So we have like a small beach, and then the Pacific Ocean of Nayarit, and it's this expression that we have also in La Mandarina, where our friends from Rick Joyce's office developed this beautiful one and only project. And again, the idea on how to interact with topography, to interact with a specific site. So these 4 houses are like settled in a small site. These structures are like 5 meter wide, 5 plus 30, 35. Sorry, those are meters. And again, the idea on how the structures are part of this strong cortex, this strong interaction between the site and these beautiful trees that we have there that are red. You will see it on the pictures. So these structures that are like struggling to be just simple structures made of the materiality of the site, and that are placed, let's say, in a very simple but nice way on the topography. Now, pitch roofs to collect the crazy amount of water that we have there, all the hurricanes stuff. So this is like a very simple but expressive project. You can see the red papelillo trees that we have there. So we tried to get almost the same color on the concrete and on the brick that we're using to imagine that as these papelillo trees that are like emerging in this beautiful greenery, the houses are those kind of structures. Obviously, with very beautiful spaces, with amazing views, but always thinking on the relationship with the site. At some point, I think, or I like to talk with my clients about that it's more relevant to think on what's happening on the surrounding of the project, how we're going to be like the best neighbors that we can be, instead of only thinking on what's happening inside. I believe that if every architect truly believes that that's like the goal of architecture, how we fit and how we interact with the surrounding areas, the context will be like very, very different. Again, building pictures. Sorry to show projects that are on ongoing process, but that's something that I like to do because in a way it shows the honesty of our structures, the intentions of our projects, and how we really deal with the reality of the places that we work in. We try to always keep things inside a budget, inside a culture, in order to really, really be part of a community in a way. We try not to import technologies or materials. We try to use what we have on hand, and that's also something that I love about Tucson. The way all these rammed earth houses are teaching us all over the world how we need to go back and think on the vernacular idea of doing things in a local way. Again, renderings that shows the idea of the final result when we don't have final pictures. Then inside this place called Mandarina, that Rick Joy and Philip Neher were working, we met there. We were invited to create a small beach club in this beautiful beach called Canalan, and the idea was to have like a building and connect the whole master plan to this beach. So we were again invited to create something on a very, very tricky and beautiful place that was this Pacific Ocean beach that has this condition of being, let's say, surrounded by beautiful manzanillas trees and other elements like palm trees, etc., but with a beautiful it's not a lagoon, but like a mangrove. That's the word. It's a manglar in the back. So the project, I mean, from the ocean is this beautiful horizontal mangrove that, in a way, we tried to keep it the most, let's say, simple and pristine as it was when we arrived there. In a section that I love to work in section all the time. Again, it's a beautiful beach that connects at some points with this mangrove in the back. Also, we have all the mangrove here, creating this natural system. We have amazing crocodiles on the mangrove area and stuff. And let's say that the world where we were working on, it was this thin beach long line with the manzanilla trees and some other palm trees and stuff like that. So it was like important to again create something that was completely connected with the obvious beautiful view to the Pacific, but also the beautiful view to the mangrove and the very, very important natural cross ventilation space and things that sometimes we tend to forget, right? But like in the other project on the forest, we decided to create these very simple structures. We were in a very weird way, like thinking on the failure of the project and imagining these structures to be like beautiful modern ruins in the middle of the jungle, but also the idea of pavilions intended to have other purposes in life. So the program was like very simple and evoking also these beautiful enramadas that I don't know if you're familiar, but these very simple Buddhist structures that we have in the Pacific that are just like simple like pergolas, in the beach where people have like beautiful informal restaurants or places to just hang out. So in a way, again, this was the abstraction or the contemporary abstraction of these enramadas, the expression that we see in the culture of these beaches. And again, the proximity or the intuition on using the materiality and the elements on the site. These beautiful like reddish, pinkish colors that we have on the trees, but we have also on the rocks. So this, again, enramada made of exposed colored concrete, creating this abstraction or contemporary idea of the palisadas, creating different moments like restrooms and other programs for a beach club. But in a way, again, trying to be very, very, very close to the atmosphere, the essence of the site. I forgot to put pictures of these palisadas, these pergolas that I was talking about. But again, it's a refined idea on the simple pergolas that we have in our country. And this picture shows a little bit of the mangrove that I was talking about in the back and the ocean in the front. Now I'm gonna change to a completely different building. This building is a mixed-use building called Torre Avancer in San Luis Potosí. San Luis Potosí it's a city in the central area of the country. It's pretty close to the weather that we have here in Tucson. It's a weird city that was between important cities. It's a city between, let's say, Ciudad de Mexico City and Monterrey, on the north of the country. So it's a city that wasn't, let's say, a huge city, but it was rich because they had like a mining industry. They have a beautiful downtown, colonial downtown, with beautiful examples of different moments of architecture in our culture, but also like a very, very industrial expression. It's a city with a lot of steel companies and mining companies, etc. So in a way, there is a beautiful part of the city expressing the colonial buildings, but also this nice, in a weird way, expression on the industrial world. And here on the right it's a beautiful museum made by Ricardo Legorreta. That again, it's like adding something very, very root related with San Luis Potosí in a contemporary way. So again, about reading and understanding aside the city, let's say that we were invited to create a project. This project has an interesting story because it was a competition it was a small competition between 3 firms, and we were in the competition against one of our present friends. It's a studio from Guadalajara called Macías Peredo, and in a moment we decide to enter the competition together, but with 2 different options, let's say. No, we were like thinking on this idea on how difficult are the competitions, and how difficult it is to maybe present one idea, one option, when you have so many ideas when you start a project. So we decided to create like 2 completely different proposals, present them separately, but knowing that if one of them, those were winning, we will be doing the project together. And I'm telling this story because Oscar was saying something about collaboration, or I think that it was on Philip's speech. We at the office, or myself, I believe that it's like very, very important, and especially I think today, to understand the power of collaboration, not only with other colleagues, but also with clients, also with other, let's say, specialties in architecture, landscape, lighting, interior design, etc. So we try to keep the effort of doing collaborations in order to learn and in order to keep that exercise of criticism and dialogue between offices. So this project again was in a nice slope in the hills of a valley. Well, this let's say like the beginning of a suburban area of the city, and they asked us to have like, let's say, a conventional building. We try to convince them on not to doing a lot of parking space, but it's not a big city, so they still the scale of a city without a huge or any public transportation, so the car was very important. So we end up doing a project with a parking space on the ground. We convinced the clients not to create like a parking space on the higher levels of the street level, in order to create a nice, let's say, cortex for the public interaction of the building. So in a way, again, this is a project that speaks a lot on the gesture on extraction. You will see why, but the simple act of excavation creates a beautiful expression. It's a very, very strong and solid ground. So in a way, it can be, let's say, naturally stabilized. So again, the negative action of extraction creates an amazing moment there that allows us to bring the building into life and create a structure that you will see in pictures, remind us, let's say, all this industrial essence of the city, no? And also creates, again, the cortex of this first base, no? that was supposed to be completely open and with a free flow, because it's in a floor plan. This building has like this triangular form because we have like two streets converging into the same point. So we decided to create like a free or almost free pedestrian level, no, that connects both streets and the three sides, let's say, of the building, creating like a beautiful urban connection, remembering that downtown with these beautiful historical buildings, no? So in a way, we decided to bring not just like, let's say, the urban elements of a beautiful downtown colonial city, but also the expression of the materials and stuff. So in a way, there were like three completely different beautiful worlds. No, the building that is this structure, the pedestrian beautiful floor plan, and then the parking space that is the result of a beautiful excavation. Again, the idea on how we collect colors, materials, and textures from the surrounding moments and buildings on our project. We designed this like an industrial look building that obviously is trying to create a more efficient interior spaces by blocking the sun, but also, like I was saying, integrating the building to the culture of the city. Like I was saying, the excavation create this beautiful expression that create a beautiful moment on the parking spaces. Some of the levels are today destinated to other purposes than parking space because of the beauty of the space, but also because of the need of more, let's say, office spaces. So again, the way we try to empathize or interact with the city, it's about those gimmicks, those elements that we steal and absorb from the places where we are working in. And in a way, that gives us the opportunity to, let's say, navigate in all these different places without trying to impose ourselves, to impose a design style or a signature. No, we try, again, in a way to survive in the architectural world by creating buildings that are part of the places and not copies of ourselves. These are all these spaces that are connected to the different streets that has like different levels, but again, bringing the idea of that colonial downtown, you know, with the materiality, colors, the vibe, the expression on the floors. Then, again, a completely different place. This is Tulum in the southeast part of the country. It's like a tropical beach, beautiful area next to the Caribbean, Mexican Caribbean. We have like a completely different colors, palette, vegetation. It's a flat surface. No, you don't see any mountains in kilometers. So it's like a very horizontal jungle. It has been developing a lot of touristic projects, no, hotels, apartments, etc. It's quite dense today. But then again, in the back of our heads, the idea was to imagine how to create something dens in this existing house between a beautiful jungle that we have in the back and the beautiful sea that we have in front. So again, in a section, the idea of understanding how this horizontal place that ends up in this beautiful beach, sandy beach, but has this amazing jungle in the back with palm trees, other kind of endemic cheat plants and stuff like that, a very dense structure, and let's say the open space that we have in front. You know, we have like a strip, like a central, very small street here that connects the whole beach front. And since this was a house, an existing house, that the legend was saying that it was Pablo Escobar, this drug dealer from Colombia house. I think that's a myth. But well, there was like an existing structure with let's say with moments of negative impact, already negative impact on the land. So in a way, the authorities gave us the opportunity to build the buildings only where the house was placed. No, so we again imagine this Donald Judd idea on how to use the existing footprints of some buildings and create a new structure. Again, the idea was to create this very stereotomic, simple structure that was creating a grid made of concrete, you know, to provoke like so many passive ideas. No, we separate the buildings from the sand to provoke the pass of the water, but also to avoid all the energy coming from the sand, to create the space with a lot of, or 100% cross ventilation, never going higher than the 12 meters that the jungle has. So in a way, we organized with the client to create a very dense building, but in a very dense jungle. It's an arrangement of different buildings, you know, rooms, restaurant, the normal stuff that a hotel has. This is the mock-up of the structure without the beautiful vegetation that we have. Again, very simple structure made of concrete that I imagine that maybe in 20 years can be used for other purposes. No, a very simple structure that doesn't create a huge impact on the sand, on the land. Again, this one is under construction, but I think again that it's interesting to see the honesty of our projects, no, and the simpleness. So this is this again in the back of my head, a modern ruin that is in the middle of the jungle and interacts in a interesting way with the structure of the palm trees and the vegetation. Again, renderings to show the final idea of this. We are also collaborating in this project with two firms, one in Mexico called Idea Asociados and another one from Germany, Lambs and Lions, on the interior design. And it has been amazing to work with different offices from different parts of the world. Inside the same project, we explored a different idea that was the reinterpretation of the palapa. like bringing an abstraction idea of the pyramids, but also trying to bring the vernacular components of a palapa that doesn't need any air conditioning, that settles in a very simple way on the sand, avoiding big structures and only simple piles in order to, let's say, keep the natural underground flow of the water, to create this natural ventilation system that the Palapas has. But again, like evoking the forms and materials from the Mayan culture. So these are these contemporary versions of a palapa that are creating all these different moments in the program of the hotel. And this is the last project. Again, a completely different project, a different landscape, but again, a different, let's say, idea on how to approach to things. This is it's called a housing camp because it's in a way temporary housing project for people that works there but live in a remote area. And we have been trying to understand how important is to understand the separation between permanent house and temporary house, because especially in Mexico, we believe that a house needs to be forever and needs to be permanent and needs to be, let's say, personal. But in this case, the people works in a very remote jungle in these fields where they extract I don't know how to say it in English, but this from the wool that we use for latex and stuff like that. But again, it's a huge field, and the people needs to travel 2 hours to get to their jobs. So the idea was to create again temporary camp for them to be, let's say, working 4 or 5 days and then leave back home during the weekend. This is the site, an amazing grid that was designed back in I think that in the 30s when Henry Ford was designing these fields to have like the best grid to get this kind of trees, and then get again this liquid inside. I don't remember the name in English. This liquid inside this savila inside the tree to fabricate rubber and tires. So in this beautiful grid, we discovered that with a very, very low budget that we had to create these buildings, the existing structure of the trees were creating probably half of the effort for the houses. In this case, the houses are not intended, let's say, to be like an intellectual or design abstract idea. It's about how to be like very, very efficient for the people living inside these fields. For the people that, again, it's not a conventional family typology. We discovered that in these places we have like thousands of migrants that are coming from, let's say, different parts of South and Central America, stay a few years there, saving money to jump into the United States. So in a way, that's also another way to see how these are temporary houses. On one side, we have the people that is working during the week, and these people that it's for a period of time between countries. So let's say that the constitution of human groups and families, it's very big and very diverse. It's not that we have families made of couples with kids. We have families made of grandparents with grandsons, single mothers, single fathers, in-laws. So the idea on how to mix these different, let's say, kind of tribes in spaces that give them the opportunity not to be inside a conventional house. So it was a great opportunity again to discover another kind of approach to things. In this case, like I was saying, this existing beautiful grid created by the engineers trying to have like the most effective plantation. They have this system of 7 meters between trees, so that again create those impressive lines that you saw in the pictures. And these structures are creating in this selvatic jungle region, are creating like an amazing shaded area. They create this amazing ecosystem that it was there. So in order, let's say, to use that in our favor and avoid a lot of costs on energy use and resources, we decided to create something that was part of the existing system. So it's a simple gesture, again, of a simple structure that doesn't touch the ground, again, for passive reasons, to avoid and create natural ventilation. A simple structure that gives us the opportunity not to use AC, to provoke natural ventilation. Also, let's say, under the floor, also to prevent any floods or whatever. And then we found out there that there were like huge bamboo plantations. So we decided to use, for the first time in our practice, a bamboo structures that are, in a way, just creating the canopy. And like I was saying, the shades are doing 80% of the job by blocking the sun. So again, these simple structures that are aligned with the grid of the system, and creating these different pavilions that sometimes are dormitories, sometimes are houses, sometimes are dining areas, social areas, kitchens, etc. And again, let's say with the idea on being like very, very practical and pragmatic, allow people to have spaces to sleep, spaces to gather not only in the interior of the spaces, but also with the surrounding existing beautiful plantation. These are the mock-ups, trying to express what I was drawing, this simple idea, very, very simple idea of building structures that are $300 per square meter. That's like $30 per foot. So imagine, it's like a crazy budget to do something. We also tried to bring some color to the concrete, to bring these blocks with color in order to adapt in a nicer way to the existing grid of the trees, to create these simple but beautiful structures. that are immersed in this crazy landscape. And in a way, understanding and working with a very, very specific target, the very pragmatic idea on budget, on site, and all these elements that in a way are needed when you design something so simple as this. Very humble spaces, but with a huge effort, not only on design but on the pragmatic approach to architecture. And with these pictures, I finished the presentation. Thank you very much.